Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so that you never miss any video lesson from Rao's IAS Study Circle. Join the official Telegram channel of Rao's IAS Study Circle to stay updated and get all the materials on the Telegram. The link to the channel can be found in the description box. Hello and welcome to Daily News Simplified, an answer to what, why and how of newspaper reading from our UPSC Civil Services examination perspective. Now today let's take up the New Delhi edition of the Hindu newspaper dated 9th March 2022. The news to be discussed has been displayed on the screen and timestamping for these has been provided in the YouTube description. So on this note, let's start our today's discussion from our UPSC Civil Services Prelims and Mains perspective. Now the first news to be taken up appears on page number 6. Now this news says women seek regular jobs, respectable wages. And in this regard, it highlights about Anganwadi and ASHA workers as they hold protest rallies in Haryana and Delhi. So this news says that coinciding with International Women's Day, activists of the All India Democratic Women's Association's Centre of Indian Trade Unions and Sarv Karmachari Sangh staged protest demonstrations across Haryana. Further, demonstrations and protests were also held in Delhi. And these protests were joined by Anganwadi workers and accredited social health activists, that is ASHA workers. And they sought regular jobs, respectable wages, and they were protesting against growing oppression, exploitation and violence. And these protests were because these Anganwadi and ASHA workers sought regularization of their jobs, they sought respectable wages, and also they were protesting against growing oppression and exploitation and violence, especially against women. Whereas the Delhi state Anganwadi workers were protesting as they were demanding increase in their pay and also regularization of service. So through the protests, the Anganwadi and ASHA workers have raised their concerns with respect to their respectable state government. So in this regard, let's understand certain basic aspects about Anganwadi workers and also ASHA workers. Now from our examination perspective, this topic becomes important mainly from the perspective of social justice and governance under GS paper 2, particularly with respect to issues relating to development and management of social sector services relating to health, and also functions and responsibilities of the union and states, and also important aspects of governance. Now a direct question in your mains can be asked with respect to functions of Anganwadi workers and ASHA workers, their benefits, their financial securities, and also concerns with respect to their functioning. Now regarding the concerns, you can highlight these aspects regarding the fact that they do not have a regular jobs, and that is why they are protesting to regularize their job both in Haryana and in Delhi. Now the news also highlights that women working across various government schemes including midday meal schemes are not even considered as laborers and hence are not given the minimum wages. So based on these concerns, let us understand about the role and function of Anganwadi workers and also ASHA workers. Now ASHA workers act as a critical link between the healthcare delivery system and the community at large. And the ASHA workers are selected from within the community itself. So one of the basic function of ASHA workers is to create awareness among the community, especially with respect to nutrition, sanitation and basic hygiene practices, and also to counsel women on birth preparedness, safe delivery mechanism, breastfeeding, immunization, contraception and infections, and also informing them about antenatal and postnatal checkups. Further, the ASHA workers also ensure that women are vaccinated and they are also not anemic. And it is also the duty of ASHA workers to transfer pregnant mothers to hospitals. However, their role is limited to being the first point of contact with the community and the health services. And after this, their role becomes limited. So they cannot suggest any medicine to a ailing mother, or they cannot speed up health checkup in a primary health service in case the woman is in emergency. Further, it's also the duty of ASHA workers to get the blood test of women done, informing the health department about any infections or outbreak of disease in the community also. Now regarding the Anganwadi workers, basically they function under the Integrated Child Development Scheme and ensure supplementary nutrition programs and child care and development. So, Anganwadi Services is a centrally sponsored scheme which is implemented through the state governments and respective union territory administrations. And the recruitment of Anganwadi workers is undertaken by these concerned state governments and UT administration. So, it says that as per the guidelines of the government, Anganwadi workers under the scheme must be from local village and are selected by a selection committee constituted by the state government and UT administration. Further, according to the Integrated Child Development Scheme Broad Mission Framework, minimum prescribed qualification for Anganwadi worker is matriculation, and it is same with respect to the ASHA worker also. And it says that the age limit should be between 18 to 35 years for engagement of a woman as Anganwadi worker and Anganwadi helper. Now, the Anganwadi workers are also provided with certain training, and this training is provided at Anganwadi Workers training centers under the ICDS training program. Now, the capacity building of Anganwadi worker is also enhanced under the Poshan Abhiyan. So, it says that under the Poshan Abhiyan, capacity building of Anganwadi worker is also done. So basically, the Anganwadi workers are community-based frontline workers of Integrated Child Development Scheme, and they play a very important role in the growth and development of the child. Further, the Anganwadi workers also track the growth of child. They record their weight, height, etc. on a monthly basis, and this record is submitted to the state government. Further, the Anganwadi workers also organize non-formal preschool activities for children in the age group of 3 to 6 years. They also organize supplementary and nutritional feeding of children from the age group of 0 to 6 years. Further, the Anganwadi staffs also assist primary healthcare staff with respect to immunization, health checkup of children, and also their mothers. So this can be said to be the basic difference between the functioning of Anganwadi workers, which is mainly associated with the growth and development of a child, whereas ASHA workers act as a critical link between the healthcare delivery system and the community as such. And the function performed by ASHA workers is a part of National Health Mission. So regarding the ASHA workers, we can say that they create awareness on health issues within the community. They mobilize the community towards health checkups. They provide access to the existing health services in the local area. They work with the Village Health and Sanitation Committee of Gram Panchayat to develop a comprehensive village health plan. And they also inform about the births and deaths or any infection or unusual health problems or any disease outbreak which take place in the community to the sub-center or primary health center. So these can be said to be some of the important roles assigned to the ASHA workers in a particular area. Now, since ASHA workers act as a critical link between the community and the healthcare system, hence they must be a woman within the community. So it says they must primarily be a woman resident of the village. They can be either married, widowed, divorced, and should be in the age group of 25 to 45 years. It further says that ASHA workers should be a literate woman with due preference in selection to those who are qualified up to class 10th. However, this criteria can be relaxed if no suitable person is available under the required qualification of matric pass or 10th pass. Now, regarding the selection process, it says ASHA workers will be chosen through a rigorous process of selection involving various community groups, self-help groups, Anganwadi institutions, block nodal officer, district nodal officer, village health committee, and also the Gram Sabha. Now, apart from the selection process, undergoing training of ASHA workers is also important to improve their capacity building, as undergoing training helps in acquiring necessary knowledge, skills, and confidence to perform their task. Further, the ASHAs receive performance-based incentives for promoting universal immunization, referral and escort services for reproductive and child health care, and other healthcare programs and construction of household toilets also. Further, the ASHA workers are also provided with a drug kit to deliver first contact healthcare, and every ASHA worker is expected to be a fountainhead of community participation in public health programs in her village. So these are some of the important role and functions as provided for the ASHA workers. Now, the Government of India has also provided for the financial security of ASHA workers, and this has been done by extending them benefits of life insurance, accidental insurance, and also pension. So, life insurance for the ASHA workers is provided through Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Jyoti Bima Yojana. Accidental insurance to the ASHA workers is provided under the Pradhan Mantri Suraksha Bima Yojana, and age-old protection and social security is provided to the ASHA worker under the Pradhan Mantri Yogi Man Dhan Yojana, under which 50% of the contribution of the premium will be done by Government of India and 50% will be done by the beneficiaries themselves. Now, other financial security involves the government approving cash award of rupees 20,000 and also citation to ASHA workers who have left the program after working for a minimum of 10 years as an acknowledgement for their contribution to the society. So these are some of the financial security which has been provided by the Government of India to the ASHA workers regarding their life insurance, accidental insurance, and also age-old protection in the form of pension. Now, despite the financial securities, number of concerns for the ASHA workers still remains. These include irregular pay and non-payment of their dues, job insecurity and also less pay. There have also been instances or cases of oppression or violence against women, especially the ASHA workers. Further, they are also ill-treated at the primary health center and at times also discriminated against on the basis of caste. And even there are instances of caste discrimination by the ASHA workers also, especially to Dalit women. Now, these ASHA workers transfer the pregnant women or other ailing women to the primary health centers. And at times, the staff and doctors of the primary health centers force the patient to go for more expensive treatment so that it can be compensated by the insurance companies. And because of this, it increases the lack of trust between the ASHA workers and the women from the community. Further, there are also issues of non-payment by insurance companies. So, this further increases the lack of trust between the community and ASHA workers. And at times, when ASHA workers goes for survey within the community, they are not much welcomed. Apart from this, there is also an issue of lack of institutional support from the healthcare department, especially in the outbreak of disease, as has been seen during the outbreak of COVID and Nipah virus. So these can be said to be some of the concerns with respect to the ASHA workers. And because of these concerns, ASHA workers and Anganwadi workers in Haryana and Delhi are holding protest rallies to regularize their job and also increase their pay. Thus, this topic becomes important with respect to GS paper 2, especially with respect to issues pertaining to health and also important aspects of governance. So from this news analysis, we learned about the functions of Anganwadi workers and also ASHA workers. With this, let's take up the next news analysis. Now next, let's take these two news together, appearing on page number 10 in the editorial section and this news appearing on page number 12. So news in the editorial section says that India and China must take on board global currents that could reshape their ties. And this is in the backdrop of India and China trying to hold fresh round of talks which will start on 11th of March on the Indian side of Chushul-Moldo meeting point. Now let's start with the editorial and then we will move to this news on page number 12. So the editorial highlights that China claims that the Indo-Pacific strategy of United States is aimed at creating an Indo-Pacific version of NATO. And this Indo-Pacific version of NATO will stoke geopolitical rivalry by forming exclusive clubs. And the exclusive clubs highlighted in this article are AUKUS, Quad, and the Five Eyes. And on this, China has even backed Russia with its concern on NATO's eastward expansion in Europe. Now it is said that the fear of NATO's eastward expansion in Europe and Ukraine joining part of NATO triggered the war between Russia and Ukraine. And based on this, China has even accused India by saying that since India is also a part of its exclusive club of United States, namely the Quad, hence India is also an ally of United States and therefore can be said to be a potential threat for China. Now this can be said to be concerning for India, especially the fact that India and China are about to hold fresh round of talks for de-escalation around the border. Thus, this topic becomes important both from a prelims and mains perspective. Now, questions have already been asked by UPSC in 2020 and 21 on AUKUS and Quad. So, the recent question asked in the year 2021 in GS paper 2 was, the newly tri-nation partnership AUKUS is aimed at countering China's ambitions in the Indo-Pacific region. Is it going to supersede the existing partnerships in the region? Discuss the strength and impact of AUKUS in the present scenario. Whereas last year in 2020, two questions were asked, one on quadrilateral security dialogue and the other on India-US defense deals over Indo-Russian defense deals. So this question was, what is the significance of Indo-US defense deals over Indo-Russian defense deals? Discuss with reference to stability in the Indo-Pacific region. Now this aspect of this question was important. And question on Quad was that Quad is transforming itself into a trade bloc from a military alliance in present times. Discuss. Now US sees Quad as a military alliance, whereas India does not see Quad as a military alliance and rather and more as a trade partnership or as a trade alliance. And this is where the difference in understanding of quadrilateral security dialogue between US and India exists. Now from your prelims perspective, you need to know the countries which are involved with respect to AUKUS. Now AUKUS is a trilateral security pact between Australia, UK and the United States of America. Quad, as we all know, is a group of 4 countries, namely US, Australia, India and Japan. Whereas Five Eyes or Five Eyes Intelligence Oversight and Review Council, which has been created for sharing of intelligence, is between Australia, Canada, New Zealand, United Kingdom and the United States. So China has referred to these exclusive clubs and have stated that since India is also part of this exclusive club, hence India is an ally of United States and therefore India is also in pursuance of destabilizing the Indo-Pacific region. So this statement of Foreign Minister of China can be said to be concerning for India, as China has accused India to be part of exclusive club of United States, which is pursuing to expand NATO to the eastern part of Europe. And in the process, China has also stated that India is an ally of United States. However, India's external minister have stated that interested party, here he is referring to China, were making a lazy analogy of Asian NATO, as India does not see Quad as a military alliance and rather India believes in strategic autonomy. Now here it's important to understand about strategic autonomy. Now strategic autonomy denotes the ability of a state or a country to pursue its national interest and adopt its preferred foreign policy without being constrained in any manner by other states. So if India is pursuing its foreign policy, then it should not be swayed or constrained by any of the decisions of either United States or its allies or China, Russia or any other country. So basically the point is that India should be free to take its own decision with respect to its international relation in order to secure its own national interest. However, it is very difficult to pursue strategic autonomy in its purest form according to political scientists, because they believe that in its pure form, strategic autonomy presupposes that the state in question possessing overwhelming superior power, because it is only when a country possesses superior power, it will be in a position not to be constrained by another bigger power. So it says that this will enable the state or the country to resist the pressures that may be exerted by other states to compel it to change its policy or moderate its interest. Now there can be 2 recent examples. One is where India abstained from voting in the United Nations Security Council with respect to Russia, whereas in the previous instance, India did not vote in favor of Iran because India feared of US sanctions. So we can say that although India wants to practice strategic autonomy, still there are certain outside pressures which constrains India's decision making. So in practice, it makes very difficult for a country like India to maintain strategic autonomy, whereby it can completely resist pressure from a competing side. Now, despite this understanding of strategic autonomy, India as its foreign policy believes in this concept of strategic autonomy, and according to Indian government, it cannot be pursued or constrained by any external power in taking its own decision for national interest. So for India, its national interest is paramount. And based on India's national interest, it can take any decision with respect to its international relations. Now, despite this aspect of strategic autonomy, China views India as an ally of US and hence a potential threat. Now, this may also impact the fresh round of talks which will begin on 11th of March for de-escalation around India-China border along Ladakh. Now, another concern highlighted in the article is that since China and Russia also shares a very good relation, and China backing Russia on its concerns on NATO eastward expansion in Europe, this good relation between China and Russia may impact India-Russia relationship. Now, another balancing act which India needs to do is that amidst this war between Russia and Ukraine, US might demand its own set of allegiances, especially with respect to pursuing its own Indo-Pacific strategy with the aim to counter China. And it is here where China see India as a threat because US wants to expand its presence in the South China Sea. So considering the aspect of strategic autonomy, India needs to trade carefully on geopolitical lines and also needs to balance its own national interest with US and its allies and China and Russia on the other hand, keeping in view India's own national interest at hand. However, despite these concerns expressed in the article, the Foreign Minister of China also believes that recent setbacks on the border between India and China does not suit both the countries and hence there is a need for disengagement along the border. And based on this understanding, both India and China have mutually decided to hold a fresh round of Corps Commander talks at the Indian side of Chushul Moldo meeting point on March 11. Now, like in the earlier round, the focus is on disengagement from patrolling point 15 in Hot Springs while taking forward the comprehensive disengagement and de-escalation efforts forward. And both India and China undertook disengagement from both sides of Pangong So and patrolling point 17 in Gogra area in August along with Galwan. However, the areas of Demchok, that is this one, Hot Springs, this one, and Despang Plains still remains contested as China so far do not want to discuss about disengagement at Despang and Demchok. So let's wait for this disengagement to start on March 11, 2022. Now these locations becomes important from your prelims perspective. Now from your examination perspective, you should know about Pangong So Lake and also Spanggur So Lake. Now Pangong So Lake is situated at a height of almost 4,350 meters, is the world's highest saltwater lake. Now this lake is also a terminal lake, which means no water from the lake flows outside the lake. And similarly, Spanggur So Lake is also a saltwater lake. Now, as you can see in this particular picture, Indian and Chinese frontline posts are separated by mere 150 meter in Rizangla in eastern Ladakh. So from the location perspective, you need to know not only about the Pangong So Lake but also Spanggur So Lake as well. And this is also a saltwater lake. Thus both these news becomes important from the perspective of GS paper 2 and also map of India. With this, let's take up the next news for discussion. Now this news appears on page number 14 and it says that Minister for Women and Child Development Smriti Irani pledges support for policewomen as she said that Creche will be set up at district level for women police officers, and setting up these creches for their children will help the women police officers overcome certain challenges at their work. Now this news highlights that this proposal was mooted at an event organized by the Bureau of Police Research and Development, that is BPRD, under the Ministry of Home Affairs. So the ministry believes that after providing the facility of creche, more women will take up the job of police officers. Now earlier in 2013, a parliamentary committee on empowerment of women with respect to working conditions of women in police force had suggested not only to set up creche across the district but also to provide for toilet and other facilities for women. So considering the need of women and their challenges, Minister of Women and Child Development has suggested that creche will be set up at district level for women police officers. Now the Labour Code on Social Security of 2020 provides that every establishment where 50 or more employees work shall have the facility of a creche. Now, creche is a place where children are cared for within the premises where their parents work. And according to the Labour Code on Social Security, minimum 4 visits to the creche is allowed to the mother. Now, the problem so far is that the rules pertaining to the Labour Code on Social Security has yet not been notified. So, as of now, the legal provision with respect to facility of creche is with respect to the Maternity Benefit Amendment Act of 2017. Now, the earlier Maternity Benefit Act did not provide for the facility of creche, but this Amendment Act has added this particular aspect. So, the Maternity Benefit Amendment Act, apart from providing creche facility, has also increased women's leave entitlement from earlier 12 to 26 weeks. Further, it also provides for creche facility and a mother is allowed 4 visits during the day. Further, maternity leave cannot be availed before 8 weeks from the date of expected delivery. Now, prior to the amendment of 2017, this period was 6 weeks. So, this period has also been extended. The amendment also provides for maternity leave for adoptive and commissioning mothers. So, there is a provision for those mothers who adopt a child and also for commissioning mothers. Now, 12-week leave is allowed for such mothers who adopt a child below 3 months of age. And the amendment defines a commissioning mother as a biological mother who uses her egg to create embryo implanted in another woman. So, both adoptive and commissioning mothers has been granted maternity leave under the Maternity Benefit Amendment Act. And under this amendment, work from home option can also be availed by the working mothers after their maternity leave. So these are some of the benefits which has been provided under the Maternity Benefit Amendment Act of 2017. Now these are some of the other problems faced by women police officers. These includes upbringing of children along with their job, insufficient time to meet family commitments because no time is fixed, and this also results in irregular working hours. Now this may irk some of the relatives or even the husband of the police officer. So another problem is opposition by relatives including husband and poor reputation of women joining police in rural areas also. So these were some of the social problems faced by women joining police services. Whereas work environment related problems include public behavior towards women police officer, heavy workload, lack of separate utility facilities in police stations, lack of promotion avenues, problems related to training as most of the women police officers are trained along with the men, problems with respect to government accommodation, insufficient wages provided to women police officers and also the lower staffs, problem of transport, problem of leave, and also frequent transfer, which is a part of police service. So all these can be said to be some of the problems faced by women police officers both at the higher and also at the lower level. Now, despite these problems, more women have joined the police force and their representation has increased from 4% in 2010 to present 10%. Still, there is a lot of scope and the government should focus on recruiting more women police officers. So this topic becomes important not only from the perspective of governance but also from the perspective of social justice under GS paper 2. With this, let's take up the next news for discussion. The next news to be taken up also appears on page number 14. It says Bangladesh, India and Nepal to move ahead on the MVA Pact. Now this MVA Pact is Motor Vehicles Agreement Pact between India, Bangladesh and Nepal. So according to this agreement, people will be able to take their vehicles into these countries based on certain conditions or restrictions. However, Bhutan has moved out of this agreement as Bhutan has not endorsed the plan as of now. Why? Because Bhutan has environmental concerns and it wishes to be carbon negative. Now, carbon negative means removing more CO2 from the atmosphere than one emits. So, Bhutan believes that allowing more vehicles into its country will not help Bhutan to be carbon negative. So, on this note, let's understand about this MVA agreement. So, in this agreement, Bhutan participated as an observer in New Delhi, and the meeting was held to discuss the passengers and cargo protocols that are essential to operationalize the BBIN, that is Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal Motor Vehicles Agreement for regulation of passenger, personal and cargo vehicular traffic between Bangladesh, Bhutan, India and Nepal. However, Bhutan has opted out of the agreement as of now. Now this agreement was earlier signed in 2015 and this is the first time when this group is meeting face to face after the COVID outbreak. So during the meeting, the Motor Vehicles Agreement was finalized but Bhutan did not sign. And this agreement will enable seamless movement of traffic between the countries and will facilitate trade and also people-to-people contact. Now, this agreement will also help to realize the full potential of trade and people to people connectivity between the BBIN countries by fostering greater sub regional cooperation. Another important aspect to be noted is that Asian Development Bank has provided technical and knowledge support to this particular MVA meeting. So this news becomes important mainly from your prelims perspective. You need to know about the BBIN Motor Vehicles Agreement as it involves as of now 3 countries, namely Bangladesh, India and Nepal. And Bhutan as of now has not endorsed this plan. That is, they have not ratified this particular plan because they wish to be carbon negative. Now recently, Microsoft has said that it wished to be carbon negative by 2030. So having understood about carbon negative, let's also go through the concept of carbon neutrality. So carbon neutrality or net zero means that any CO2 released in the atmosphere from human activity is balanced by an equivalent amount being removed from the atmosphere. So whatever is added into the atmosphere, same amount is removed from the atmosphere. Whereas with respect to carbon negative, it means removing more carbon dioxide from the atmosphere than a country or a company emits. So becoming carbon negative requires a company, sector or a country to remove more CO2 from the atmosphere than one emits. So this is with respect to carbon negative. Thus this news becomes important mainly from the perspective of GS paper 2 have entered into the motor vehicles agreement allowing passenger, personal and cargo vehicular traffic between these countries, and you need to know about the concept of carbon negative. So this news becomes important from the perspective of IR under GS2 and also environment. With this, let's take up the question for the day. Now based on our discussion, this becomes your practice question for the day. The question is, consider the following statements. First, the Spanggur So Lake is a saltwater lake close to border area in Ladakh. Second, Pangong So Lake is a terminal lake and is the world's highest saltwater lake. So the question is, which of the statements given above is are correct? Options are A, 1 only, B, 2 only, C, both 1 and 2, and D, neither 1 nor 2. Now coming to the answer of yesterday, the question was, which among the following factor can lead to decline in labor force participation rate in a country? Options were, first, increase in enrollment in higher education, second, decrease in number of people looking out for work, and third, increase in number of informal workers. Now in this, the third statement is incorrect, so the correct answer becomes B, that is 1 and 2 only. With this, we come to an end to today's discussion. Thank you for watching DNS.